Parts. I've never done parts before. Come here. Come here. Hey! This is private parts, if you don't mind. Hey folks, Kilt-Man here. Kilt-Man at your reanimating services. How are you all? Hope you're all doing very, very well. Look at this. The reanimating serum brings the dead back to life. Little secret for you here. I worked this out before. I thought, right, I'm going to fill a syringe with green fluid. Do we all have green fluid at home? Well, I found some food colouring gel. Green food colouring gel. And I put loads of it in here, in this little syringe. And it turned out black. Literally black. It was useless. In despair, I pushed the plunger and squirted it all over the kitchen sink and the window and the curtains. In fury. Oh, God, no. And there, staring me right in the face, was a little plastic bottle of fairy liquid. Fairy liquid! Fairy liquid. The perfect reanimating serum for Herbert West, Re-Animator. So, let's put this over here, out of the way, before it causes any more leakage and damage, and washes things up and destroys all bacteria. That's what it's meant to do. So folks, what are we talking about Re-Animator and like green fluid for? Because Re-Animator, we all know it, we love it, we cherish it. A renowned video, not nasty, but it was cut down in the UK and became very, very controversial for a certain head sequence. And but a great campy, quirky horror comedy adaptation of H P Lovecraft's 1922 serialized short story Herbert West, Re-Animator, which I've got several versions of it, but it's in one of these omnibuses. We have two libraries here. One, because of the cat, is now inaccessible because it's been sealed away, I'll be honest, because the cat will get in there and it can find a way through the rafters and the roof into other places, and so that library is now sealed away. There's archaic tomes and scrolls, so in years to come, whoever inherits the Kilt mansion, they're going to find Kilt-Man's memoirs. But anyway, it's in one of these, so if you've got any H.P. Lovecraft omnibus or collection of stories, you'll find Herbert West, Re-Animator. And it was adapted by Stuart Gordon and Brian Usner back in 1985 with Jeffrey Combs, the iconic Jeffrey Combs playing Herbert West, with Bruce Abbott playing Dean Kane, who's his mate, his buddy at Miskatonic University. And my God, who else did we have? Barbara Crampton as Megan. Oh my God, Megan Halsey. Dean Halsey runs Miskatonic and ends up becoming the undead, reanimated. But Dean loves her, and yeah, she's totally full frontal nudie nudes, and the severed head of, what's his name? Oh God, I always do this, I always forget names. Dr. Hill, played by David Gale, who is outstanding, because he stumbles onto the fact that like Jeffrey Combs, is Herbert West, has got this reanimating agent, and he's doing stuff. They're working the night shift sort of thing in Miskatonic, so they get the hospital and then go to the morgue and reanimate corpses, and they can screw around to the heart's content. Every single experiment leading to disaster. Even like Dean's cat, Bruce Abbott's cat, is killed and then brought back to life, screamingly horribly, and then killed all over again. But it's a great horror comedy. Everything culminates in a huge zombie rife finale in the morgue. It's a very moist movie. There's fluids everywhere. There's heads getting squished. There's things being thrown against walls, which are part of people. Splats all over the place. People are getting torn asunder. An entire rib cage comes apart, and huge intestine-like tentacles come out and ensnare people, and it is a completely anarchic, purely graphic, explicit version of what Lovecraft wrote. Lovecraft wrote very descriptive prose, but about things which you couldn't possibly imagine. He wasn't overly graphic when it came to like bodily destruction, but otherworldly creatures, multiple eyes and tentacles and cephalopods, that's a new word I just created, just come out from the old world and all that, and great Cthulhu, all that mythos was there, and he's wonderful at describing all of these creatures, not so much about what they actually do to people. So Brian Usner and Stuart Gordon, the great Stuart Gordon with Empire Pictures, went, no, we're going to show this, but we're going to have boobies and bits of, hairy bits down below. It was the 80s, it was allowed, and we're going to go right out there with squirty effects, blood, prosthetics, the whole caboodle. The film was a rip-roaring success. I'll tell you now that in the UK it was cut down, but back in the day, that didn't stop me. I had uncut versions of Dawn of the Dead, Evil Dead, Day of the Dead at the time, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, and which was banned outright in this country. But then you got Re-Animator was cut down in the UK, and also Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3, Leatherface, was not even allowed in the country. Another little aside here, the great Starburst magazine. I remember, I've not got the issue. I don't think I've still got it. I've got a lot of the old issues of Starburst, but not got this one. They had two reviewers review Leatherface Texas Chainsaw 3, and one was massively, this is fantastic. One was totally against it. Both said how horrifically violent it was, and graphic and explicit. So, my God, I had to have this movie. Where did I go to get it? I actually went to Mallorca. Yes, I went out to Spain to buy Re-Animator and Leatherface Texas Chainsaw 3. They were the two I massively wanted. They were the big things at the time. So I was out there and I found a little video library, and I, in very sort of broken Spanish, trying to say, I want to buy this and this. Everything else that they had, I had all the other video nasties, but these were newer movies, which I knew were cut down on, in fact, not even outlawed, as in the case of Leatherface. So I bought them back. They were on VHS cassette at the time, but I had beaten out VHS, so no worries there. And I was very happy with my Spanish-speaking version of Re-Animator, because at least I had the full uncut version. Only amounted a few seconds, but the head sequence, that's what was cut down in the UK. But there it was, old Babs Crampton, who still looks astonishingly gorgeous even now. And why shouldn't she? Age means nothing. She's not aged at all. She's not. She's absolutely adorable. I follow her. I'm one of those, a loyal acolyte. I prostrate myself at the shrine of Crampton's, bits, and I still worship her. So that was great. Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3, even fully uncut, is still not the film we wanted to see. I don't know what the hell those two reviewers saw, because it certainly isn't the full uncut version which I've got, and it's now freely available. Everything's available now. All censorship's gone completely, well, pretty much. And the original version, I've got the graphic novel of it, and done by the guy who died fairly recently, about 18 months ago maybe, who wrote that. And it was far nastier. The killings were far more explicit. Brains were getting smashed out with mallets and all sorts of stuff, like, and lots of chainsaw action. It's not in the movie. It's not in the film at all. It's not there. It cuts away at every single moment. You've got Ken Faree in there. Peter from Dawn of the Dead. SWAT Team Supremo. And he's a survivalist, you know. And yeah, there's a fair bit of stuff with him. But he gets a chainsaw to his head. And a bit of gore is there. But he survives. It's the version that... Even the version that I got from Spain, which is the full, supposedly uncut version, is crap, and what a waste of time. I'm just throwing this in as a big aside, because I got Re-Animator fully uncut from Spain by going out there. But we've all seen and loved Re-Animator. It's campy, it's explicit, it's graphic, it's tons of visual gags, loads of like anarchic dialogue. Jeffrey Combs owns the role. He's outstanding. I think we'd seen him previously in The Man with Two Brains with Steve Martin, where he's one of the sort of surgeon apprentices, and that they're shaving down a girl's pubic hair, and Steve Martin comes in and goes, "What is that? It looks like, is that a heart or something that you've done there?" And the poor girl's knees are up there in the air, and like Jeffrey Combs goes, "Well, we thought because it's Valentine's Day, so." He's like, "I never want to see that again." It's brilliant. So Jeffrey Combs was already playing a sort of eccentric, maverick surgeon with ideas, you know, which go beyond the grave. And of course, Lovecraft wrote this. It was serialized in 1922. It's only a short story, but it takes in various locations and different time periods. Well, the double act of Cain and Abel, I was going to say that, and Herbert West, kind of goes on for a bit, and they go around lots of different places, and they end up in a war zone as well. Now, Re-Animator, the movie from '85, only loosely based on that. It's purely Miskatonic. Some of the characters are still the same, but it's contemporized, so it is the 80s that it's taken place in. And then of course Brian Usner directed Bride of Re-Animator in 1990, I think it was, and Screaming Mad George took over, did the effects, but you've got David Gale as Dr. Hill, again the severed head, but he's got bat wings on it, and it's a really shit visual effect, but it's a good movie. It's nowhere near the quality of Re-Animator, the first one. Then many years later, 2003, Brian Usner was approached to do another Re-Animator movie. And I should say, Bride of Re-Animator does loosely adapt some of the later chapters in this short story of Herbert West, Re-Animator. It's got those elements to it. They go to a war zone and they do this, they do that. It does capture some of those. So those first two films really do sort of, you know, have a take on what Lovecraft wrote, but in a massively, you know, out there sort of way. But then 2003, Brian Usner, who wanted to do more for Re-Animator, gets the chance with Spanish-American co-production to do Beyond Re-Animator. They bring back Jeffrey Combs to play Herbert West again, and he's in an asylum. He's dabbling about with his green serum again, and causing all sorts of mayhem. But it's crap. It really is it's a bad movie. It's hard to get through it. But I like the way that it's a Spanish co-production, and I bought my uncut version Re-Animator from Spain itself. You know, so there's a connection there. But Beyond Re-Animator, don't bother with it. It isn't that good. Richard Band who was the alumnus composer for Empire Pictures. Done so many movies, and his scores are fantastic. You're hearing the score right now to Re-Animator, and I'll talk about that in a bit. But after this lengthy introduction, why are we talking about Re-Animator right now? Because, yes, you guessed it, they're going to do a new version. Now before you go, oh, remake, Kilt-Man, you hate remakes. It's not a remake. How can it be a remake? It's another adaptation of what H P Lovecraft wrote back in 1922. So you've got this company, and it's up here on the screen somewhere. I'll find it for you. Right. It's a company called Woodlake. It's an independent, low-budget movie. Well, I presume it's a movie. Right. H P Lovecraft's Herbert West Re-Animator is in development from indie outfit Woodlake Entertainment and screenwriters Adam Simon and Tim Metcalf, who did The Haunting in Connecticut. Now, you guys may know that movie. I have that movie, and I don't recall ever watching it. Maybe I should. So I can't say, oh my God, these guys are great. The very fact that The Haunting in Connecticut doesn't go ignite, wow, fever dreams of excitement means that if I don't know it, a lot of you guys don't know it, it really doesn't hit that sort of zone, but it still could be great. We are very excited for Woodlake and the amazing team assembled to reinvent this classic horror literature, not the Stuart Gordon movie, not that movie. They're not remaking the movie, they're doing an interpretation of the original H P Lovecraft short story into a contemporary, so modern day, frightening feature film, said Woodlake owner Roger Lewis, who will exec produce alongside Andrew Trapani. So I'm just reading ahead there, but it doesn't give you any more detail about what's happening, because there is no detail. There is no cast, there's no director, there's no nothing mentioned about who's going to be doing this. But I'm kind of excited. The short story does go in different places. There's a lot more murders. There is a siege of zombies. There's a war zone brought into it. There's murders taking. There's a lot that takes place. Re-Animator from Stuart Gordon and Brian Usner, 85, condensed a lot into what was a great schlocky exercise in what the 80s made great. Well, the 80s made a lot of things great, but especially big hairdos, mullets, fantastic. MTV, come on now, it's fantastic stuff. Lethal Weapon, Predator, Rambo, God, there's no end to what the 80s gave to us. But it gave prosthetic effects, stretch show heads, and all animatronics, splattery effects. You had Tom Savini in the 70s and into the 80s, of course. Rob Bottin and Rick Baker, makeup effects. But the likes of Carl Buechler, who became a great stalwart of Empire Pictures, did so many of their creature effects and gore stuff and he's on board for this. And it has loads. There's head crushings, eye poppings. There's loads of things in it. It's tremendous. Some of the effects aren't brilliant, but it did push the boundaries. You had Evil Dead, it's right there. You had Scanners, right there. You had Evil Dead 2. And I would say that Re-Animator and Evil Dead 2 as horror comedies, Evil Dead 2 is a better one, but Re-Animator is right up there as well. They really are shoulder to shoulder. It just depends on what your personal favourite is. And but effects wise, there was no limits. Let's just go off the rails. Do whatever you want. We'll see what we get away with. Both films suffered, censorship issues, but they were both absolute classics with huge fan bases. Both spawned, more sequels and prequels and fucking all sorts so. But this version, if it follows the book, What gets me, I kind of wished it would set it when Lovecraft wrote this, so it would have been contemporary with 1922. I'd love to see that version. I would love to see that, because what Lovecraft was doing, and he was all obsessed with things from the outer cosmos, things from the ancient histories, older gods, the elders, and all this sort of stuff. Like, but it was set in a sort of Victorian time, and well, Victorian, it's like later time maybe, but also Re-Animator was Herbert West was based on like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, reanimating the dead, bringing the dead back to life. He found a serum. Mary Shelley found, well, she never described what Victor Frankenstein was doing. It was occult stuff, it was alchemy, there was all sorts of things going on there. Never described. And Herbert West, Lovecraft took that idea and like, well, okay, I'll do mine. And it's not jokey, but it's got, Lovecraft had a sense of humour to him. A lot of things maybe weren't that particularly funny, but Herbert West, even that's like Herbert West, Re-Animator, it's clearly, it's almost like, Basildon Bond, 007. It's a moniker for somebody that does something. Herbert West, Re-Animator, and he does, and it kind of goes wrong so many times, but we don't stop trying. And that's the thing about like all these scientists in movies and all our favourite bits of literature. They fuck up all the time. I want to be invisible, but it's driven me mad. I've got this tonic. It makes me younger, but it also makes me into a homicidal maniac. It's just everything that we meddle with. Dr. Moreau, it's gonna come back and bite you on the arse. In his case, very literally. And Lovecraft saw what Mary Shelley did. Well, here's my angle on this, and I'll make it pulpier, because Herbert West is actually quite, for Lovecraft, it's quite a pulpy sort of story. It lends itself, because there's so many reincarnations and rebirths and resurrections, and they're all fucking violent and giving it loads. They are all nasty. They're all screwed up. You bring them back. Sometimes dead is better, and that's very true in this case. But it's a great pulpy sort of story, and that version could well be told by somebody new. Sadly, a lot of people are going to think, well, no, it's just a remake of Re-Animator. Oh God, we're sick of these remakes. And then they're going to see it and go, like, well, I don't get it. It's not funny. Well, it's not meant to be funny. It's told in such a way that a modern reader looks at it and goes like, yeah, because we know we're so well versed with zombies and resurrections and hands coming out of the grave, and people, once they come back, they're not as friendly as they were before they died. A bit more violent, a bit more angry, and so we're used to it. But back then, that was shocking stuff, But it is still darkly satirical. So a version now by these guys, well, I don't know. Why not? I'm not against it at all. As I say, it is not a remake. So don't go thinking that. It's not a remake. It's another adaptation of a classic bit of literature. The same way as like The Thing. I had to bring it in, didn't I? Another 80s classic masterpiece. Practical effects. Rob Bottin, Stan Winston as well. But it's not a remake of the 1951 Christian Nyby Howard Hawks movie, The Thing from the Well. It's not a remake of that. It's an adaptation of the original novella Who Goes There by John W. Campbell. So anyone can do a remake, an adaptation of that book, that novel. Anyone can do an adaptation of Lovecraft stuff. You're not remaking the films that came before, because they are all adaptations of that original written literary material. So it's open. Anyone could do it. Nosferatu, we've had, how many Nosferatus do we have now? Well, 1, 2, well, 3. 3, yeah, 3. And a couple of offshoots as well, like, let's be honest. Shadow the Vampire and Werner Herzog's own sequel to his own 70s Nosferatu. With Klaus Kinski reprising the role, Vampire in Venice. Not a good film, I'll be honest, but you can have any adaptation of a literary source. It doesn't mean you're remaking the films that have come before, which have been in their own way an adaptation of that same source material. But those first 2 movies, Re-Animator and Bride of Re-Animator, do take in large facets of that original story. But imagine lumping the whole thing together. And here's the problem I've got with the potential problem with this, is that it's very episodic. So if you adapted that story and told it the way it's written, you're going from here to there to there to there, and there's lots of incidents, and like they kind of, some are brushed over, some are like really complex. It would make for a very convoluted movie with a lot of stuff taking place. It'd be a long film. For a short story, it'd be quite a long film to pack it all in. So you're gonna have to adapt it and like jettison some bits, keep other bits, but also I think it would lend itself to perhaps even Herbert West Re-Animator TV show. Say 6 episodes, and you introduce Herbert West and what his plans are, his serum, and his associates, and well, the narrator is the associate, and all the various incidents they go through, the escapades, almost getting caught, almost getting killed, having to commit murders and like bring in people, grave diggers and all that, like grave robbers, I should say. And this is how the whole thing pans out. It's a lot for a movie to bring in. So it takes some fair bit of, quite clever streamlining, a scalpel to edit it all down, to make it a manageable sort of movie length story. But a series would give you all the avenues to go down and explore, bring in new characters, and still adhere to what Lovecraft wrote. But it's early days. It's just been mooted, this, so it's early days yet. I'm playing Richard Band's score for Re-Animator. I have pretty much all of Richard Band's scores. And of course, controversy reared its little snotty green head with his score, because, well, let's get onto it right now. Let's do it now. We need to get to this, the main title. Let's turn up a bit. It's jokey, it's jaunty. But what's that? That's Bernard Herrmann's score for Psycho. And got into a wee bit of trouble over this, because he was accused of plagiarising and ripping off Bernard Herrmann's score for Psycho. That wasn't what he intended to do. He deliberately took all this from Bernard Herrmann's magnificent score for Psycho, but he put it into his jokey, kind of anarchic score with pops and squeaks and whistles and raspberries and weirdness, so that people watching it were like, well, Re-Animator, what's it actually about? Oh, it's based on Lovecraft. Isn't Lovecraft? Didn't we learn that in school? Wasn't Lovecraft? Oh, like Edgar Allan Poe and all that. So a lot of people went to Re-Animator not really knowing what they're going to see. But it's a jokey horror film. So Richard Band was like, well, no, I'm going to let them in straight away. I'm going to play you a famous piece of horror music which you're going to recognise, but I'm going to do it in a sort of jaunty fashion. So you're going to know this film can't be taken seriously. I'm referencing Psycho, but get the joke. And of course, licensee holders didn't get the joke. And there was meant to be a little disclaimer saying, like, I know I'm using Bernard Herrmann's music here, and all respect and all, plaudits to Bernard Herrmann. It's Bernard Herrmann's score. I'm just playing bits of it in its own sort of unique interpretation. But in the filmmaking always kind of goes awry, and someone stupidly didn't dot the I or cross the T, and that disclaimer didn't go into the credits of the movie. So of course he got sued and had to plead his case. But I get it and I love it, and it is clearly Psycho you hear there, but it's still brilliant. It's still his own voice, his own take on Herrmann's score. Herrmann's score, let's be honest, is not in the least bit humorous. It is scary, it's very suspenseful, it's very brooding. It's a wonderful score for Psycho. I think I've covered it before actually. But Re-Animator, you're hearing it now, there's so much going on with it. But it is kind of jokey and bellicose and very jazzy in places too. But the horror elements are still there, suspense is still there. But you get this element of Psycho coming in. But it just adds another unique flavour to it. The Bride of Re-Animator score is decent enough, but I don't think it's not as good as this. The first film is still by far the best. I'll cover it properly sometime. Barbara Crampton was so just on board for everything. Look, we want to see your top bits, your bum. We want to see everything. She's okay. A severed head goes down on it, God. It's just, they really pushed things there. And of course, From Beyond, I've reviewed From Beyond on the channel, which will be the next one after Re-Animator. Well, there might be a couple of things in between, but From Beyond was the next biggie from Brian Usner and Stuart Gordon, and Barbara Crampton, Jeffrey Combs, and Ken Faree from Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 is in there as well, and it's great. Another very Lovecraftian tale. Dr. Pretorius finds things from another dimension. The resonator, it activates sound and vibrations and allows you to see things which are on the other side. But if you can see them, they can see you, and they ain't as friendly. But Barbara Crampton, even though there's no explicit nudity in it, she does get down to some real S&M and bondage gear. She was a wonderful actress. It was just game for anything, and she's still making movies now. She's still been in a lot of stuff, and she still looks incredibly attractive. But listen to this. Psycho, and you get just get this playful nature to it. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. It's almost like the frog chorus. Yeah. So anyway, Re-Animator. Herbert West Re-Animator. Are you up for some more of that? I think they should have set it back in Lovecraft. When Lovecraft wrote it, that time period, that's when it should be set. Although you've got Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which would be the same, well, no, not quite the same time period. Maybe 20, 30 years before. But it would have the same sort of stylistics, I suppose. So they want to do it contemporary, so it's going to be today. And so mobile phones and social media and all that kind of shit. Wokey. Oh, I apologise. I shouldn't have thrown that. I shouldn't have done that. Should not have done that. Lovecraft would be spinning in his Cthulhu grave about the wokeisms of life. But it still could be great. You could interpret it in many different ways. They go to war because they choose, like, well, battlefield would be great. We're doctors, we're surgeons, but we still want to try to. This is Herbert West and his, his compadre, but we still want to like try to reanimate and make it successful. So where better? You've plumbed all the graveyards. Let's go to a war zone. So they do, and you do see this in Bride of Re-Animator as well. So there's a lot to interpret there. You could expand on that. You have a revolt of the zombies. There's plenty of zombies in it. There's tons of living dead. There's more in the original short story than there are in the movies put together. There's tons and tons of them. And they're all fucking wild and nasty. Man, it could be great. And I just want to like bring you all, up to snuff. The fact that we could be getting more Re-Animator. With Romero stuff coming out, Twilight of the Dead, God, what else have we got? Night of the Living Dead Part 2, The Drag Queens of the Dead by his own daughter. I've covered all these developing movies. They're all on the way. So there's more zombies from classic, the 70s and the 80s. George Romero, and now you're going to get more of Herbert West. So the dead just don't die, do they? They keep on coming back and back and back for more. I'm up for it, folks. As I say, I don't know these guys. I know I've got that film. I know I've got it, The Haunting in Connecticut, but I haven't seen it. So we'll see what happens. It's still early days yet. There's no cast, no director, nothing set in stone. But if you follow that book, that source material, there's plenty there, plenty. I'm just wondering how you're going to make it. Oh, if it's going to be modern day, really, is that the best road to go down? I like things set in period time, and you don't get so much of that these days. There's bits, but because I like all the costumes, and it drips gothic, brooding atmosphere. Nowadays, 911, you got cops, you got flashing blue lights, people got guns, and people know martial arts, they've got mobile phones. It's not the same now. I know the Scream franchise plays with all of that, so it makes it work for it. I'm not a huge fan of Scream, but it adapts to the modern way of life, and makes it work. But things like this, you kind of like, So I just thought of like another 80s classic, Return of the Living Dead, where the zombies actually used, the radios in the paramedics' ambulances and the police cars. Send more paramedics, because, and that played into what the time period was then in the 80s. But it wasn't based on anything original, anything from literature. Whereas this is, and I think I've said enough. Let me know what you think. Herbert West, Re-Animator. I'm up for it. And when you want to make your little glowing serum tube, fairy liquid. Isn't it great? Look at that. Actually, it does kind of glow, doesn't it? That's kind of cool. I like that. Obviously, food colouring gel is not good. Not good. Very liquid. It works. I wonder if it actually does work on the dead. It might clean them up. It might sluice their dead veins and tubes out. Make it all bubbly. Anyway. Folks, I have been Always Shall Be Kilt-Man, so please, in the meantime, and it's ever like, oh, let's bring the dead back for a big party in between time. Please keep it kilted, keep it Celtic. I'm going to see you all, obviously, in a graveyard. Bring your own shovels. It's great, isn't it? It's so jaunty and yet so kind of darkly jocular, and it goes for the jugular as well. The 80s nailed horror comedies superbly. Fright Night, this, Return of the Living Dead, Evil Dead 2. Oh, come on now. These don't get, even American Wealth in London, you don't get better than these, do you? Right, I'm out of here. It is crafty, isn't it? The way he did this. Richard Band. I love his music. I've got almost all of his scores. Sorry. Now I'm out of it.